What are your best examples of people cheating the system? I'll start. So I work in the luggage claim department for a major airline. All day I get to hear customers yelling and complaining. What I did is borrow one of the wheelchairs from the airport and sit behind my desk all day long. Customers come in all angry, see me in the wheelchair, realize they are about to yell at a guy who is possibly crippled, and all of a sudden they turn into the nicest people. Physically my blood pressure has dropped, and in general I'm in a pretty good mood most of the time. You are the wind beneath my wings. I hope this goes right to the top. Getting things done but using psychology to make it pleasant. My boss will often check the date modified on certain files on our server to see if I have updated or even opened a certain file recently. So, I have installed a changer utility that allows me to modify the date modified on any file. This comes in most handy when my boss wants to give me weekend assignments. I just come in on Monday morning and change the date modified to Saturday night, and he thinks I was actually doing something for work on Saturday night. I've actually received a lot of kudos for this. I don't feel bad though, because my boss is a huge D-head. This is one of the best ones here. That's gaming the system, but without stealing or whatever else so many of the others have. This is in the spirit of the tracksuit bucket of chicken lady. Edit. Everybody keeps replying that tracksuit bucket of chicken lady is stealing. No more than people are stealing when they are browsing Reddit, talking on the phone, or taking smoke breaks while getting paid. She might be making the rest of her day more productive by getting that break in the middle of the day the only way she can. We don't know. Yes, we should all aim to cheat in the spirit of the tracksuit bucket of chicken lady. Bless her. Edit. I think Ron would approve. Her name was Roberta Paulson. My wife and I were at a super fancy restaurant in NYC. Reservations not allowed, expect to wait. We get there and are told we would be waiting about 2 hours. No problem, we planned on this. Some guy right after us shook the reservation guy's hand, handing him $200. Next thing I know I hear table for 2 for Thomas. Thomas being my name, and I asked for a table of 2. I say that is me. They sit us and we order drinks and apps. 5 minutes later they say we are the wrong Thomas, but we could stay since we had already ordered. Guess who was the right Thomas? The guy who paid $200 to skip the line. This is gold because you cheated somebody who was trying to cheat. You ought to be higher up in the comment ranks. Did your night then suddenly turn into you running from bad guys, stealing an Audi and busting the DA at a strip club? I was flying last month, and the plane I was on had Wi-Fi. There was a free 15-minute trial, and then you could purchase a chunk of time. I just kept deleting the cookies on my phone, refreshing, and logging back in. I stayed online for over an hour for free. You're a menace to society. Think of all the worn-out internet tubes because of him. Monstrous. This reminds me of when I was on a late-night train which had free TV for 5 minutes on back-of-seat screens. So I just kept moving seats for an 1H30 train journey. That's a lot of seats you warmed. Watching TV, while staying in shape. Nice. I used LimeWire to download LimeWire Pro. Every time someone posts this I find myself grinning and nodding my head. I thought I was a genius when I did it. I knew someone who would hold one religious ceremony in his house every year so that it could be considered a place of worship and he didn't have to pay taxes. Tax fraud sounds like a good idea until you get caught. Just as a disclaimer, don't try this at home. It's fraudulent and you can be fined for not filing proper zonings, tax evasion. When I was in college, I had this meal plan where the school essentially took my actual money and turned it into campus dollars that could only be spent at school dining halls and cafes. I didn't mind so much until the end of the semester, when I was informed that any unspent campus dollars would go away. I had more than $100 left, and only a day to spend them. Here's what I did. I went to the nicest campus restaurant, the one where you're supposed to take your parents when they come to visit. Basically, a real restaurant with waitstaff that also happened to take campus dollars. I got the most expensive thing on the menu, and then called the waiter over. I asked him if I could tip him in campus dollars, and he said yes. I asked him if he would have immediate access to those campus dollars in the form of actual money, and he said yes. So I made him a deal. I gave him a monster tip, and he gave me half of it back in actual money. Many years later, I am still proud of this. I made a server's day, screwed the man, and got my money back. I think this wins the thread by pleasing everyone. You cheated the system and helped someone while getting your own money back so no one can complain about stealing. Nice. I wouldn't call it cheating, since the system itself was cheating. A while back, there was a law passed that prevented retailers from making gift card money go away if it wasn't spent quickly enough. They'd reduce it by some bogus monthly fee. So retailers were no longer allowed to just keep people's money if they bought a gift card and didn't use it within 2 years, like they had been doing. Something like this should be done for these fraudulent colleges too. Torrenting college textbooks. I love the internet. I once torrented textbook for a computer ethics class. The irony of this statement is so delicious I could sell it for $30 a plate. The classic anecdote to this is an economics professor who awards extra credit to everyone in his class that torrented his textbook instead of buying it. Torrenting everything. I love the internet. Fixed that for you. Even a car. I was required to explain this to my mom after she thought she found a great deal for online textbooks and gave them her credit card number. Hi Serbius, I'm Carl Patterson and I work for the Security and Fraud Department at Visa. My badge number is 12460. I can start a fraud investigation into your case if you give me your social security number, your credit card number, and the security code on the back of your card. Have a great day. Finally, someone I can really trust. I wonder if I give him all of my bank details, will he be able to trace those Nigerian scammers who robbed me last month? Edit. If this idea amuses you, you should watch Matchstick Men with Nicolas Cage. Whenever people come to the pool where I lifeguard and have guests with them, I always ask them if they live more than 50 miles away. Our policy is guests from more than 50 miles away don't pay guest fees. If they say no, I give them the look and ask them again. They usually say yes after that. Saving customers $2 like a boss. There is nothing better than employees who try to save customers money. Having worked in customer service, I have no idea what compels you to do it, but I thank and commend you. You are a fine human being. Check out guy at a nearby grocery store did this for us. Do you have any coupons? No. Wrong answer. Do you have any coupons? Of course. Laughing face. I get paid by my work even though I am on Reddit for 5 to 6 hours per day. 5 to 6. Noob. I need to see all of you in my office immediately. Same here. Except, I work in internet marketing and SEO, so if anyone sees me on here I tell them I'm researching link building tactics. I get paid to work, and I spend the majority of the day on Reddit, or playing games on my PC. That is the glory of security work when your job is to sit at a desk that people rarely come to. Sometimes though, it'd be nice to leave that desk. I bring all my rechargeable items, shaver, cell phone, laptop, etc. to work and plug them in there. I figure I must have saved at least $1 to $2 last year in electricity. In a few dozen years he could buy himself a used cell phone. The college I commuted to didn't have enough parking for the commuters but roughly 10 times what it needed for the residents. One day I was forced to park in the resident parking and got a ticket. Every day I had to park there I'd slip the ticket under my windshield wiper and walk on into class. The cars around me would get tickets but they'd just leave the old one on my windshield figuring they already got me. Never even paid it. Worcester State did a horrible job of enforcing parking fines 10 years ago. I did this at my school. I put the ticket under my windshield and for the first time or so it worked. Then I started getting tickets again. One day I sat outside when I parked legally and watched the parking guys do their thing. Turns out they marked the tires of the newly ticketed with chalk. It's genius, really. Who looks at their tires? So then I noted the rotation of colors they used and bought my own chalk. I live in a campus apartment and they've recently changed the visitor spots to 4 hours only. One morning while waiting for the bus I saw the parking police marking the tires of all the cars in the visitor spots with chalk indicating the time a ticket could be written. As soon as he left I went and wiped the chalk off each of the car's tires. I giggled the whole time I was doing it. I can afford college thanks to bigotry. I have 2 moms, and thanks to the law, my non-birth mom is technically not my legal parent, so when I applied for the FAFSA, I could legally say that I was raised by a single mother who works part-time. Lady friend of mine born in Cape Town, immigrated to USA at 2. African American on all standardized testing and college applications. White as the Yeti. It's a typical one, but still gold. Edit. For non-Americans. In the USA, many colleges or loans, grants give added weight to people of minority status, intended to make up for institutional racism, in a process called affirmative action. She is white, but she claimed a minority status through a technicality, and is recorded as such on the census, opening doors intended for visible minorities to her that would otherwise not be open. I have a friend whose great-grandparent was about one-half Native American, the ultimate rarity and gem on a college application. She got into almost every school she applied to despite her bad grades. And that is why affirmative action programs based on race alone are bad. Help people who are poor and needy, not just skin colored a certain way. Trevor Richards was suspended from his Omaha high school for applying for the Distinguished African American Student Award. He is a South African Yeti as well. At the arcade, if you pull the ticket out real slow and careful, you can get an extra one. Boom. I lived in a trailer park next to a Chuck E. Cheese, and before they got the shredders, they just threw out the old tickets in trash bags. I'd wait until the shift changed the next day and split the tickets with my friends. Great system. Yee-haw. All the pixie sticks you could snort. In case someone is tempted to try this, it hurts a good amount. At a local arcade, they weed your tickets, so I used to rubber band tickets into stacks of 100 or so and slip a penny into each stack. They never unwrapped the stacks and never wondered why the tickets were so heavy. I used to just get them a little wet. Old lady 80s at my college bookstore walked in the back with a bag, placed 2 books in her bag, and then I watched walk to the front as she sold them back to the bookstore. I wanted to say something, but was too impressed. I'm not surprised. Some of the most audacious bad things I've seen in my life was done by old ladies. If you are a woman over about 55, you are invisible. You are non-threatening, unassuming, and trustworthy. You are grandma. You can get away with things you wouldn't believe. When I was a sweet-looking teenager, my grandma and I would sometimes sneak into movies at big cinemas. No one suspected. She'd pack sandwiches. I should call her. Because no one expects the sweet little old lady. Or the Spanish Inquisition. In Russia, we shop like this. Enter store. Buy item, keep receipt. Couple days later, go back to store. Bring just the receipt. Pick up identical item you bought before. Go to checkout and say you want to return item. Show receipt as proof. Get money back. You have won. In Soviet Russia, store pays you. Till how I'm going to pay for college. I used to work in a camera store that sold warranties. No matter how the camera broke, they would fix it or replace it under the warranty. The only problem was that the store would ship off the camera to be repaired, sometimes for months, up to 5 times before replacing it. So, let's say your battery cover breaks off. You ship it off and 6 weeks later it's back. But, it's really a brand defect, so, the cover pops off again. They won't replace the whole piece or give you another camera. You're out the camera for months while it's being fixed. They keep selling the defective camera and the warranties. I got tired of fraking over customers. I thought it was dishonest. I read the contract myself and found an interesting clause. If the camera was so physically damaged that it was obvious it couldn't be fixed, we could take a pic of it and send that instead. The person immediately got a new camera. When people would come in with a camera with a defect I'd seen 100 times, I'd ask if they just wanted a new one, the next model up, without the defect. They'd say yes, and I'd tell them to take it out into the parking lot and run over it with their car. I'd pile the pieces on the counter, take a pic and give them their new, non-defective camera. I slept fine. If you were feeling particularly malicious after they run over their camera, you could tell them that intentional damage isn't covered under warranty. And just cherish the horrified look on their face before telling them you are just kidding and give them a new camera. And just cherish the horrified look on their face forever by taking a picture of them with their new camera. A teacher I had in high school always said to his students, if you can get away with cheating, go for it. Turns out he had gotten a raise for getting his master's degree, but never actually got the degree. This went on for over 10 years before the school system figured it out. Somehow he got hired at a new school too. Classic winger. I recall reading that some school district was giving out raises for master's degree, and these teachers went online and got a master's degree from one of those phony online buy your degree universities, and they all got raises. The school district became suspicious and busted them all. He actually started taking classes at a legit college, but never finished and told the school he did. For some reason they never checked and just gave him the pay increase. He didn't even get in trouble for it since the school district was so embarrassed they gave him severance pay and everything. At my university I would always order delivery from a late-night eatery and get a ride home with the delivery guy. Less expensive than a taxi, with a meal included. *Q porno music. Papa John's offers an unadvertised, maybe unofficial, deal where pizzas that were ordered but never picked up are sold for $5 just before closing. Size and toppings doesn't affect the $5 price, so my friends and I used to order family-sized meat lovers pizzas and opt to pay at pickup but never show up. We would wait till closing, pop our heads in and ask if there were any leftover pizzas on the rack for sale, thus getting our huge pizzas for $5. I work at Papa John's and I've never heard of this. Enjoy your local deal. I suspect that whoever works at that Papa John's is making some money on the side selling leftover pies and not ringing them up. I've never heard of this either and managed several Papa John's. That sounds right. Usually if there are extra pizzas we just eat them or throw them out. Pizza Hut throws them out because underprivileged people who worked there kept messing up a pizza on purpose so they could eat it after. I'm from Northern Ireland, and when ordering stuff online I'd always write Belfast, Ireland on it instead of NE. The post'll still get there, as yes, technically Belfast's in Ireland. The post would be directed via the Dublin sorting office instead of coming into the UK routes. 9 times out of 10, the Dublin sorting office would just send it on up to Belfast, instead of forwarding it to Royal Mail in London, who would then slap a huge import bill on it, whereas the Southern Irish Postal Service can't charge me import, as I'm a UK citizen. The Republic of Ireland couldn't give a frack if the Queen's out of pocket over a few quid, cheeky smiley face. My granddad was a Royal Mail postman for years. He taught me that one, cheeky smiley face. Edit: for anyone who's confused, if you live in Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, you have to pay UK import tax on stuff you buy from outside the EU. If you write Ireland as your address instead of NE, the parcel will be sent to the Republic of Ireland, different country, same island, who usually forward straight to you instead of sending it back to the UK so you can charge. It's a sneaky way of avoiding import tax. Back in high school I discovered that if you call any questions, comments number on a food product, you could make up literally anything and get a coupon for a free whatever it was. So for instance we'd call Bisquick pancake mix and say we bought a jar of mix but inside we found 3 already made pancakes, things like that, just nonsensical stuff. We did it so much that we'd pile up the coupons, go to the grocery store and check out a full cart of groceries and just hand the cashier a stack of these coupons and not pay a cent for hundreds of dollars worth of groceries. We did that multiple times, and eventually the big companies, Kraft, General Mills, etc., catch on and you have to use different names and addresses. I'll never forget the exasperation of the poor person on the other end of the line when I told them the chicken patties I bought just get more frozen every time I put them in the microwave. The kids are outside playing hockey with that thing right now. Not in keeping with the general theme here, but it also works if you tell them how great their product is. Companies just like giving out coupons. In the good old days of Black Friday, before stores like Best Buy started getting very crafty and clandestine with their deals 8+ years ago, there used to be a slight buffer where someone would leak the sales and the items wouldn't be removed from the shelves. I don't remember specifically, but they had a system to prevent you from purchasing then price matching retroactively. As soon as this happened I strolled on down to Best Buy, took a bunch of stuff that I wanted, and put it in their dryers and washing machines. Basically whatever hiding place that didn't look like it got a lot of browsing or consideration. Then when Black Friday comes, sleep in, head to the store around noon and pull the doorbusters out of a washing machine. Nice and not illegal. Well done. Here is a Canadian one. Being Canadian, it's even ethical. Wait outside a superstore gas station and watch for users that leave the receipt. On the end of each left receipt is a superbuck. 20 minutes and you can collect enough for lunch. Saw a bum doing this. Thought it was pretty creative. My favorite homeless entrepreneur asked people for their tickets when they left a nearby paid parking lot early and sold them for 50 cents each. There's a guy in downtown Ottawa who does something similar. He helps you park your car, stopping traffic and directing you, as it's a bit of a pain to park in these spots. Then, when you go to pay, he correctly informs you that you don't need to pay, as it's past 5:30 p.m. when the meters shut off. He then asks if you have some spare change. I almost never give anything to the homeless downtown, and yet he's gotten cash from me on more than one occasion. I like that guy. He may not have a real job for whatever reasons, but he is working for his pay, instead of sitting them corners. I would gladly tip such a person every time. I used to be a member of New York Sports Club. It is a semi-expensive gym here. At the time, if you forgot your ID card, you could just tell the person behind the desk your number. I always forgot. After a while I noticed I was transposing 2 numbers in my ID and they were still letting me in. I canceled my membership and had free all-access gym membership for 3 years. I did this at a local racket club for a while. The very first time, I walked in like I knew the people behind the desk. I waved and said a very friendly hello like I was happy to be seeing them again. There was a guy and a girl working the desk and they both smiled and waved back as I walked in without paying or showing an ID card. Perhaps each thought I knew the other? I did this on Monday nights for several months and it worked every time. After a while, they did recognize me and the smiles and hellos became genuine. It's ridiculous how many places you can get into just by acting like you belong. As a front desk gym employee, I often realize when people are doing this, and I really don't care. I don't get paid enough to chase after someone who is super fit. All wave. Old job gave us smoke breaks, but number 15-minute breaks for non-smokers. I explained this was unfair to my boss, he didn't get it. So I took up smoking again. I'd take 15 minutes every shift to stand behind the building with a lit cigarette, puff it once, and then call my girlfriend on the phone. I actually know someone that started smoking for this reason. She had never smoked before. They knew who smoked and who didn't and restricted those extra 15-minute smoke breaks to real smokers. Now she's addicted. Wow, that's terrible. I put a joke mint-flavored cigarette in my mouth and when someone offered a light I said I preferred them raw then ate it. I worked at a place that ended up doing the opposite. I was the only smoker in the programming team and someone apparently complained about me taking regular breaks. So, next morning the team was told that everyone was to take a 10-minute break every hour to reduce eye strain and carpal tunnel, and could smoke if they happened to feel like it. I miss that place. If you want to cancel your cell phone contract without paying a fee, pull up the provider's service map. Find a huge hole in the map, like a desert out west. Look for a town name in that map. Tell them you're moving to Putsashatiawaka, Arizona and you want to cancel because they don't provide service there. Boom. 3 times now. 3 times. Edit. I've done it with AT&T 2 times, Verizon the other. Last time was AT&T in 2011. Bonus cheat for over 1K upvotes. If you get ticket in DC from an automatic traffic camera, wait 3 or 4 months then write a letter saying I called on A, B, C, X, Y, Z, and I wrote letters on Q, R, S, and I have never received a response. If I am one not contacted this erroneous ticket this week or 2, the ticket is not dismissed this week, I will be filing charges at X courthouse. FYI, there aren't really any charges you can press. But the ticketing is ran by a for-profit company. Their job is to ignore complaints unless it looks like you are going to make trouble. I've had 10+ tickets dismissed this way over the past 5 years. A guy in my neighborhood owned a piece of land where buildings had been planned to be built. After his wife died, eerie coincidence, yes, he turned it into a graveyard with only her grave in it so the government couldn't take the land. Eminent domain applies to cemeteries, though. And that's how you get the movie Poltergeist. When I was a precociously computer-savvy 10 to 11-year-old, I found a website that parents could set up as a reward system for children doing chores. The parent would set up an account listing several chores and assign them point values. The child, after completing these chores, could then use the points to buy various items offered on the website. There was, somehow, no charge for any of the stuff. So, I created 2 email accounts, 2 passwords on the site, and set up a really generous reward system where I got tons of points for doing imaginary chores. I used this to buy a ton of Pokémon cards that I then played with my grandpa because I didn't actually have any friends. Ninja edit. If anyone remembers anything about this website, I actually tried to find it again years later and couldn't, probably due to the terrible unsustainable business model. Please share. This website was set up by your grandfather who needed an excuse to play Pokémon. It was a long con. When I went on a cruise, when we stopped in Mexico and drove through a small town, I noticed every single building had these metal poles sticking through the roof along where the walls on the first floor were. I asked a local guy why this was and he said it was because if you kept them there they didn't have to pay taxes for it seeing as it was still under construction. Edit. Turns out it's more common than I had ever thought. It's like that in Greece too. Seems to be working out well for them. The first rule of stealing is you don't talk about it ever with anyone no matter how anonymous you think you are. I'ma steal this rule. I bought a wireless network adapter for my Xbox off eBay that was broken. I paid like $8 for it. I bought a new one at Walmart for like $40. Returned the broken one to the store. Yeah, that was stealing. Shouldn't have done that. Till. If you want easy karma, write about ripping off Walmart and say they are evil. I do this thing where you buy the ticket for one movie and then nonchalantly walk into the theaters for other movies within the theater after the first movie finishes. I believe the technical term for this is movie hopping. Back in high school I would buy massive quantities of arcade tokens from the manufacturers off of eBay. I was getting about $10 worth of tokens for each $1 spent. I was there one afternoon when some kid went up to the counter and pointed out that the token machine was giving out tokens from some other arcade. The owner was more than upset and I knew it was time to find a new arcade. Very similarly, when I was a kid, there was a local arcade called Bigfoot's that had double token Sunday. So $20 in gets $40 worth of tokens out. It just so happens those tokens are the same size, weight as the ones at the super huge arcade called Grand Prix Race-O-Rama which always had the latest and greatest games. Bigfoot's got all my money, and I spent all the tokens at Grand Prix. My favorite part of just about every comment is how the poster is cheating the system and all the reply comments are all indignant. Hey, you're stealing, committing fraud. Isn't that what cheating the system, and therefore the point of this thread, boils down to? Using Best Buy warranties to get a new iPhone every time a new model comes out. Isn't that just pure fraud? We just bought a laptop and the 2-year warranty was over $200 which I thought was insane. And the salesman said, yes well it covers complete replacement even if it is your fault. I said, well shouldn't I just break it just under 2 years and bring it back for a new one? He said, that's what I do. Take a big glass of Coke and pour it over the keyboard while your computer is on, making sure you fry the motherboard. Otherwise, they'll just replace parts this way you'll get a whole new laptop. I have been doing this for a few years. I asked the salesman why I should buy his warranty and he showed me a picture of himself running his car over his MacBook. Sold me instantly. Part of my laptop broke, but the salesman told me to take it out behind his store and get it more damaged before bringing it in, so I could get a brand new one. Please explain. I did this with an Xbox warranty from Best Buy. The warranty was like $60, and I bought the Xbox for $400. A year later, it broke and I took it back in. They handed me a new Xbox, as well as cash for the difference between the price I paid for the first Xbox and the replacement. Since the price had dropped about $150, I received $150 cash and a new system. It hadn't occurred to me that it worked this way, but once something drops in price, it seems it would almost be worth breaking whatever current model you have and exchanging it for a new one plus cash. I myself wouldn't purposely do that though, it's a bit wasteful. I worked at a Best Buy for 2 years. Even the managers and staff exploited this. Our customer service manager would get a new Xbox every year because how many people are they laying off again? If I understand their policies correctly, I think they're going to lay them off, get a load of money back, then hire completely new staff a week later. My coworker would leave at 4 p.m. to go to the bathroom. Leaving the office light on, his chair at an angle, and the computer on, no power save. He would disappear until 9 a.m. the next morning. Boss never figured it out. So easy to do at a big company. The guy at the next cubicle and I set up a meeting on our calendars, then left to go see Borat at the movies. In Norway almost every store have a 3 weeks free return policy. So when I had a movie project at school I bought a camera for about $700 only to return it when I was finished. Edit. Another story but not me. I saw some guys at a pizza restaurant in Norway, Dolly Dimples. They ordered a pizza, ate it leaving one piece. Then they went to the counter telling them it was a hair on that piece and they got a new pizza. This actually disgusted me. I bought over 300 pens for a school project with the same goal in mind, but I was too lazy and now I have pens all over my house. Hey, you can join my pen club if you want. Take the number of pens you have and divide it by 20. Then write it on your arm. For example, I have 280 pens, so I write pen 14 on my arm, so I guess that makes you 15 laughing face. Use Sharpie and wear it proud. Get a credit card with free miles for every purchase. Buy gold $1 coins in bulk from the US. Mint free shipping. Use the dollar coins to pay off your credit card. Profit. Pretty sure it doesn't work anymore, but yeah. Rosebud. No one will probably see this because there are so many comments. But here it goes. This may not be as much about beating the system as it is about being a persistent enough pain in the grass to get what I had worked for. For length's sake, pertinent details only. A professor in my second college refused to grant me the credits for work I'd done in my previous school. Long story, she was supposed to, but because she was a bigwig of sorts, no one challenged her in my behalf. My diploma was withheld on graduation day. The secretary smugly told me the dean was too busy to speak with me, and that I was out of luck. Now, I knew he was always on the office phone attached to the fax, so I took advantage of that. I went home, found all my original papers, 70 or 80-ish, and the moment his line went free, I began faxing the papers, one after the other, a never-ending stream of documents. After sending the 40th or so paper, my mom's phone rang. Picked it up, and the secretary was almost in a panic. She said I was tying up the line, the dean approved my papers, and, he said, "Can you just please stop, and come get your diploma?" Which I did. On my graduation day. My university used to have a debit card system for vending machines on campus. Your uni ID would act as your debit card, and you could swipe them at vending machines to buy snacks. My friends and I found out that the system could be gamed. If you only had $1.50 in your account, also the price of a 20 ounces soda, you could swipe your ID at multiple vending machines that were next to each other, and then select multiple drinks, food from the machines, and only get charged $1.50. The glitch was that account balance could never be a negative number, so if you got charged $1.50 5 times at the same time, and you only had a $1.50 in the account, your account would just end up with a $0 balance. Edit. Lovin' them downvotes. This thread is how to game the system, not how to be a moral person. About 3 years ago, I bought an old battered red Ring of Death Xbox off of Craigslist for $40. Apparently the previous owners never registered it and, at the time, Microsoft was allowing Xbox less than 2 years old to be replaced if they had Red Ring of Death. This thing was older than that, but I figured I had nothing to lose, so I sent it in. Microsoft never said a word, and I got a brand new one in the mail about 2 weeks later. When I quit a job over a decade ago, my grass of a boss forgot to submit my termination form. I kept getting paid for over 3 months. And I was a manager, making pretty good coin. I knew they'd eventually catch it, and I thought they'd ask for the money back, so I banked every check and didn't spend a cent. So the paychecks eventually stopped after 3+ months, and I waited for the call or letter asking for the money. It never came. 2 years later I used the money to buy my hot tub. Now I get massaged by bubbling water thanks to my incompetent ex-boss. One of the best cheats ever. Know how they have the 3-month free premium channel thing when you switch TV providers? You can get that without SWT ching by calling up your provider and asking to speak to a supervisor and spinning a yarn about how you're unsure since 4X company will offer you the premium channels. The supervisor's job is to ensure customer satisfaction, and they get in trouble if people leave the service under their watch. As such, you will often get a price cut or free premium service. Cox Cable, 5 years free HBO, Stars, Cinemax and Showtime. I did this for about 3 years with Comcast to get better rates for cable, but then I realized I was still paying $100 per month for mostly things I never watched, so I got rid of cable completely and don't miss it a bit. Same here. I replaced cable with an HTPC, Hulu Plus and Netflix, $30 a month plus internet costs, and I can watch whatever whenever. And whatever I can't legally get off the internet I torrent. Note to media companies. Put your media on the internet and I'll gladly pay for it. Make me deal with cable companies or force me to buy DVDs? Well, then you failed to compete with a free digital medium. And the pirates win by default. Okay, where to start? My girlfriend runs a salon. One of her employees, we will call her Casey, has a kid with a deadbeat guy. Casey and her man friend are drug addicts and very irresponsible parents, and for all purposes bottom feeders. The baby is now just over 12 months or so, and is diagnosed with cancer. Casey tells my girlfriend she can no longer work because she wants time at home with her son that she had never cared about before this. A week later, Casey revisited the salon and brags about how the state of Ohio is paying her son's medical bills and she doesn't have to pay a dime. Cool deal, I guess. The plot thickens. She has the courage to ask my girlfriend in the same conversation to have a fundraiser for her child's medical bills because Casey cannot afford them. My girlfriend is blown away by this, especially considering Casey quit her job. She politely declines. Casey leaves. A few days later, Casey is on the local news with her deadbeat boyfriend sobbing about how she can't pay the medical bills and cannot find work. She asks people to donate to an account at a local bank. The money is rolling in at this point. Casey appears later at the salon to get a full-service cut in color, nails, and shows off the new clothes she had purchased, etc. And before we know it, her son and her crying mug are all over Facebook and the news. Car washes are being held, spaghetti dinners, donation bins at local businesses, you name it, all to pay for medical bills already being paid by the state of Ohio. A few months pass, and so does the child, very sad indeed. The day after the funeral, Casey posts on Facebook pictures of her out partying it up at a local club, and soon after there is a benefit dinner being held for Casey to pay for funeral expenses, and she wants to start a charity for cancer research. Now, this is the short version of the story but messed up nonetheless. I've urged my girlfriend to report this to someone, but she hasn't out of fear of retaliation. It's too bad that people play on others' feelings and take advantage of the system like this. Felt good to vent. That's not cheating the system. That's cheating actual people. I always get a water cup when I go to Subway but get Sprite instead. I'm a terrible person. Once I slammed my hand in the door of my friend's car on our way into Subway. I asked for a cup to put ice in to numb the finger I'd smashed, and a few seconds later asked for another one because I was thirsty. The guy working was like, "No, you just put punch in that one. You can't do that." I was confused pretty hard until I looked down and saw that my hand had started bleeding, making the melted ice look exactly like fruit punch. I just laughed and said, "Oh, that's blood." Yeah, they gave me a new cup. Nice try, IRS. When I was in college there was a pay-by-the-hour parking lot right next to the College of Business. Accounting major. The university charged $1 per hour to use the parking lot, or you could park 2 miles away, wait for a bus, and then ride it to and from campus. Being the savvy business student I was, every year at the beginning of the fall semester I would park in the pay lot, buy a ticket, and then run home and enter it into a spreadsheet. I'd record the first day of classes as day 1 in the first field and then enter the ticket number that I had received that day in a separate field. Needless to say, after 3 weeks, I would have a strong enough amount of data to plot a line of best fit using simple algebra that I had learned in college and was able to predict a ticket number for any given day. I'd then scan a ticket into my school laptop and use Photoshop to edit the date, time, and ticket number. Printed that out, stuck it in my window, and cashed in on free parking. Sure, it was a bit dangerous, but it saved me a ton of time and money. Plus, my argument if I was ever caught was to explain that I used those skills that the university had taught me in my courses to take advantage of a flawed system. My ethics teacher would not have been proud, but I know my management and econ professors would have been proud. When I was a teenager I worked at a McDonald's where the beverages were self-serve. We just sold you the cup. Once, on a particularly slow day when I was the only one at the registers, an older man walked in with an empty gallon of milk carton, walked over to the Coke dispenser, and started to fill. It took a full minute or two, and he actually looked over at me once, where I was watching him utterly fascinated. When he was done, he put the little cap back on, nodded to me, then walked back out to his car. At my university they have parking passes which scale in price depending on what time of day you use them. Most expensive is 24-hour and the rest scale down in price in level of most traffic to least. The parking garages are also open to the public at a daily rate. A lot of my friends bought the cheapest pass with the most constricting hours. I think it's only after 4 p.m. they can use them. So what they do is come in the morning and take a ticket as if they're going to use the daily rate, then at the end of the day they swipe out with their garage pass. When buying a new car, instead of going to a showroom and haggling with them, go to cars.com, find dealers around you. Ask them for quotes over email. Once they send you quotes over email, edit the price mentioned in the email and forward it to some other dealer. The other dealer will reduce his price below this. Edit that email to reduce the price and send it to the first dealer. Keep doing it. Got $24,000 car for $17,000, all taxes included. In today's world, this will work. Maybe not to this extreme, but it will work. Take it from an ex-new car salesman. I know a married couple who started a food blog basically so they can write off their entire grocery bill. Every time my old Lexmark printer ran out of ink, I'd tell their tech support that the printer no longer detected my ink cartridges. They'd then send me new ink. I still haven't stopped doing this. My sister and I were once given questionnaires at an aquarium where you had to scratch off the correct answers to questions that were hidden around the complex. If you got them all right, you won a prize. I figured that I could just scratch off all the answers on one sheet and then just do the correct answers on the other and hand that in. Perfect score. Got a negative removed from my credit report. Once you have a negative on your report, it stays on for 7 years. There are exceptions. Write a letter to all 3 agencies telling them that the negative is a mistake and that by law they must investigate it and provide proof of their investigation within 30 days. You can send these letters every 30 days as well, and they must investigate it each time. The agencies don't have the resources to investigate each claim, so they often just remove it. When I wrote my letters, the first 2 agencies removed the negative the first time. The other agency did the investigation and responded saying that it was in fact accurate. I sent the same letter a month later and they dropped it that time. You should use old-fashioned snail mail as it is more difficult to process that way. Worked like a charm and now I have a perfect credit history. I have a complicated cheating the system. On my iPhone, there is a particular app that awards M points whenever you do certain things in the app, the first time you open it each day, when you watch one of the news stories, that kind of thing. Well, those M points you could trade in later for tons of things, including Amazon gift cards. 5K M points was a $5 Amazon gift card. Watching a 10-minute video was worth, in the beginning, about 300 M points. The trick was that you could drag the bar to the end of the video and it would still trigger the M points. Basically, you could make about $5 a minute the first day they opened it. My buddy and I stayed up super late that night and made several $100s in Amazon gift cards that night, which were just a coupon code you attached to your Amazon account. The next morning they reduced the value from 300 to something like 100 points. Still worth it in that you could make 1/3 of the money, which was essentially free. The final blow was when they reduced the amount to something like 10 points, then it became too much. In the end, after about a week, we bought 2 high-end gaming computers, parts then assembled, from nearly scratch. We already had a tower and power supply for one, but the other was completely built for free, courtesy this app. Was incredible. In undergrad, parking where you don't belong gets you a ticket. I always parked where I didn't belong, teacher and visitor lots especially, because everything else was taken, and these were right up close to my dorm class. So unpaid tickets accumulate, and are then applied to your tuition balance so that you must pay them before you can register for the next semester, or before you get your diploma, in the case of seniors. But as a member of the Honors College, I was on 100% tuition scholarship. So these tickets were tacked on, and then wiped clear. They caught on about halfway through junior year, but by then I had literally wallpapered an entire wall of my room with over $2,000 worth of blue parking tickets. I think I still have a huge stack of them, and can edit this comment with a picture of them if there's interest. TLDR, college parking tickets were added to my tuition, which was covered by scholarship, so I parked wherever I wanted. College age. We're all broke. One friend devises a brilliant scheme to eat for free every day. He would drive through or walk in at a different fast food place each day, saying that he was given the wrong order the day before, but didn't realize it until he got home, at which time it was too late for him to go back, so he called and the manager told him to come in today for a new and correct order. Oh, and sorry, he forgot his receipt. I don't think there was a single restaurant that refused him. I'm sure he had plenty of other stories and techniques besides the one I mentioned. That's the one that stands out. He probably called on one night and got a manager to put him on whatever kind of list for the next day. Don't think we don't realize what is happening. I work at In-N-Out, and this is the most frustrating thing that happens daily. You are quite honestly just stealing, and we have to take the time we would spend cooking and preparing food for someone who just paid for it, and spend it on someone who can't be bothered to spend $3. I used to work at Walden Books back in the day. There was a dude who used to routinely come in and buy bargain books. He would then go home and come back another time with the bargain books with the stickers ripped off to return them and claim he didn't have a receipt. We would then have to give him store credit for the price that the books rang up as always more than the discounted bargain sticker. He would then come back at a later time and use the store credit to buy full-priced books. He would then come back one final time and return the books with a receipt for cash. It used to irritate me when he would do this because I knew what he was doing and there wasn't anything I could do about it. Interestingly enough, this very same man would become a supervisor of mine at another place I worked at later and was a pretty cool guy. I never mentioned to him that I knew about his scheme. This should be titled, Examples of Lying, Stealing, and Fraud. Edit. I like how angry the morally corrupt get when you call them out for being morally corrupt. You should be titled, A Big Try-Hard Whiner Who Should Go Soak Their Head in a Lake. Edit. You mad? I cross toll bridges on my motorcycle. Typically, you trip a sensor, the camera takes a picture of your license plate, and then charges your account. The sensors they use are the same as stop-light sensors, which often don't trip for motorcycles. You can also see them on the ground. So I go around them, and never pay for toll. I'd feel bad, except toll for a motorcycle is the same as toll for a car. I have trouble seeing how my 350 pounds machine puts as much stress on the bridge as a 5,000 pounds machine, like an SUV. It's not about the stress, it's more about trying to see some return on the tons of money they drop when they build a bridge. Okay, so why don't they stop charging when it's been paid off, or reduce toll? My local bridge charges $5 per vehicle. Their website says 270,000 on average cross per day. That's $1,350,000 per day they take in. In 1 year, that's $492,750,000. That bridge did not cost $500 million to build. And since it's been in service for at least 10 years, yeah, that's a lot of money. Edit. To add, they earn tons of money back in the economic gain of people who live in surrounding areas being able to travel over water for work. That's why governments build them in the first place. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe.